I'm Tim Murphy of the Providence Journal. Rhode Island's next governor will face daunting challenges. How can voters decide who's the best person for the job? To help answer that question, we've partnered with the Hassenfeld Institute for Public Leadership at Bryant University and Rhode Island PBS in a project we call Job 1 Leadership. As part of the project, we're asking all the candidates for governor 6 specific questions about their leadership skills and ideas. Each Sunday for 6 weeks, beginning May 4th, we'll post videos of the interviews on our website, providencejournal.com. Here's what they said. The recent Job 1 leadership poll found that most Rhode Islanders feel they've been let down by the state's leaders. As an example of your leadership, tell us about a situation in which you had to make a difficult trade-off where you clearly could not please everyone.
One of the most difficult decisions that I had to face was in Cranston back in 2010 during the floods. And we were facing a lot of angry people that were getting to the point where they're frustrated. They had to be evacuated out of their homes by boats. And I was in a situation where for one stretch of an area in Western Cranston, I had to call for a voluntary evacuation of over 200 homes. That was a very difficult decision that I had to make based on the information I received at that time, working together with the appropriate departments, making that quick decision, which angered a lot of people, but ultimately it was the right decision that helped ensure public safety. And that's the type of decision-making ability that I hope to bring as governor to the people of the state of Rhode Island. Those are the quick decisions that every chief executive has to have that experience.
When I came into office as treasurer, I inherited a pension crisis that had been in the making for decades, and it was a tough issue. Most people told me not to touch it. They said it would be too difficult for my own politics. A leader doesn't care about their own politics. A leader puts the interest of the people first, and that's what I did. And it was very difficult. And I took the approach of saying, this isn't us versus them, labor versus management. We're all in this together. It's in everyone's interest to solve this problem. And I worked with labor, I worked with business, and most critically, worked with the General Assembly. We went from a problem that had been unsolved for decades to solving the problem, and 90% of the members of the General Assembly voted for a bill which saved the people of Rhode Island $4.5 billion and solved a problem that had been in the making for decades. That is my brand of leadership.
Well, I absolutely agree that leadership is about making difficult decisions. And in this time in our state, we can't do everything. A lot of my leadership experience comes from my time serving in the military. And as a prosecutor in the Coast Guard, I was often faced with the trade-off of what should we prosecute and at what level. But the key for me was always to keep in mind the needs of the victim and the public interest, never to be swayed by the outside interests or by others. And I think that's what we need. We need to focus on the core issues at stake. Like you said, so many people have lost faith in government. And I think if we're going to rebuild our faith in government, it's by having leaders who have integrity and who are going to make decisions for the right reasons at the right time.
I think that if you look at the job of mayor, there are always challenges, and you can't please everyone. The contracts that we have negotiated with our labor unions have all had trade-offs. Just recently, someone talked with me about the fact that one of our contracts had a payment to a union fund for retirement. And they would have liked to reduce that. Well, that was a trade-off we made, but we saved 10% of the cost of the contract, and because of that, Providence is better off today. People, you can't please everyone, and in a good deal, everyone walks away a little unhappy, and that certainly has been the case in many of the deals that we've had.
I'd say one of the most difficult decisions in my life centered around the health care of my own parents. and the passing thereof. I'll address, there's a lot of factors in our environment. Pests, mold, things like that. So one goes into a hospital situation trying to recover from one life event, only to succumb to another life event. For example, mold in the hospital. I identified mold in radiators in a process in the respiratory ward at Rhode Island Hospital, where they take the pillows and put them on the radiators that have mold and back onto the beds, and then a patient has another complicated health event. So I addressed that with a team of doctors, and it led to the resolution of a mold problem at Rhode Island Hospital and a letter from the president. My mom did eventually pass. We're not a litigious family, but I'd say that was one of the more important and critical moments where one addresses a problem.
Okay. Thank you.
So I've gone on Latino Public Radio to talk about my ideas for how to fix the economy, and I'm asked, as a Republican candidate, are you Tea Party? Are you right wing? Do you care about Latino issues? And my answer is, I do care about Latino issues. I care very much that your children get the education that they deserve. I care very much that the jobs are available for both you and your adult children that they deserve. And the state's letting you down in that way. And then I'm inevitably asked about driver's licenses and whether driver's licenses for illegals is something that I agree with, and I don't. And I don't. Because I can't go to France and ask for a driver's license just out of the blue. It's not a very sensible thing, and ultimately, it doesn't fix the problem because you can't drive a car without automobile insurance, and you can't buy automobile insurance without the proper documentation. So for those reasons, I'm against it, and when I frame the question that way and I show them that I care, but I can't help them in that particular quest, but I'll tell them that I will advocate for the federal government to fix the problem, this is how we close the loop, and I have to tell them something that they're not very interested to hear me tell them.